We worked through our CJAD-C2 panel. So a little bit of background. To gain some decisive advantage in war, you must strike first and cripple the enemy. In World War II, Germany pioneered the idea of blitzkrieg, which was lightning war. In Iraq, we adapted a combined arms concept into shock and awe, specifically using Blue Force Tracker to provide heightened awareness that enabled rapid decision-making and improved C2. Now, the world is watching as we took note and tore down the fifth most capable army of its time. We set a new bar, focusing on connecting sensors to shooters across all domains: land, sea, air, space, cyberspace, with our allies and partners. We call this the Combined Joint All-Domain Command and Control, or CJAD-C2, which is helping us enable lethality. As a combat support agency, DISA is postured to support CJAD-C2 across the globe. Our panel today consists of DISA's technical directors. We'll discuss and hear how each combatant command are working to improve interoperability in their respective AORs. I would like to now introduce them to you. First, we have Ms. Mi Chung, the DISA Pacific Technical Director.
Good afternoon, everyone. So according to the National Defense Strategy, Indo-PACOM is a priority theater. DISA-PAC, we support Indo-PACOM headquarters at Camp Smith. If you look at our theater, it expands about 8,000 miles. We have land masses that are either peninsula or island, and a lot of water in between. So there are a lot of challenges when we talk about CJAD-C2, enabling lethality across the 8,000 miles with the pacing threat that is globally present today, but they live in our theater. So we pay a lot of attention to the pacing threat in terms of realizing CJAD-C2 so that our commanders can make decisions that will allow us to win, allow us to prevail under contested environment. So I'm looking forward to a lot of discussion today, learning from each other and challenging the industry in terms of where we need your help today.
Thank you, Mihi. Now we have Ms. Drew Cooper, the DISA Global Technical Director.
Hello, everybody. I am Drew Cooper, the DISA Global Technical Director. We are headquartered out of Scott Air Force Base, but we also have locations at Columbus and Hill Air Force Base in Utah. DISA Global is responsible for the operations and defense of DISA's portion of the DoDN, and we are also one of DISA's primary operations service managers. While we are located in the continental United States, we partner globally, and our mission is global. So I'm happy to be here with some of our favorite DISA OCONUS teammates.
And last but not least, my technical director, Ms. Raven Fuentes.
I see no light, so I'm assuming it's on. I've been with the agency for a while now, over a decade, and then I've been in the position as a tech director for the last couple of years. I will tell you that much like Indo-PACOM, we have a unique situation because we don't just support the EUCOM AOR. Everything that we were providing is pretty much also assisting other combatant commands within that region, and then extending down into Africa and everything else like that. So additionally, having to ensure that we're able to work with our partner nations, and then it extends beyond just NATO, is extremely important for us. So just understanding the importance of CJAD-C2, where we're going, where we need to be, and specifically how, as me put it out, how you can help us get to where we need to be. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Raven. Now I'd like to move to our questions. These questions will help tease out some of our challenges and also focus areas for you, our industry partners, to assist us in helping gain interoperability with the Joint and Coalition Force to increase our lethality. So the first question in relation to CJAD-C2, I'd like to talk about policy being the rules of the road, yet policy often lags technology. How do we ensure our policies are enabling rapid response especially dynamic, high-pressure situations? Where is the balance between security and speed? Raven, will you start us off?
Yes, ma'am. So, again, policy is the rule of the road. So what do we do? How do we get by that? We need to have that basic understanding of risk. What risk are we potentially applying in certain environments? So as we've stated over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of scenarios where we need to share information quickly. And within those scenarios, we've seen that it's important for us to evaluate and work through so that we do have that right balance of security as well as the ability to provide the information to ensure that our warfighters are lethal and drive that lethality. So balancing those risks and those requirements is essential. And I think ultimately some of the problems that we've seen have everything to do with disparate networks, and that is from a multitude of countries that have advanced at different levels in their overall understanding of information and cybersecurity, as well as just the overall data standards. There is none. There's a complex problem that we need to try and resolve so that there's some type of data standard. And so within policies, I think if we can develop something that'll allow us to all utilize those same data standards and share information at a faster rate, I think that'll really get us to where we need to be. Finally, everyone talks about AI and ML, right? AI and ML is going to solve all our problems. Well, unfortunately, even our countries, our nations that we're working with, all have different levels of AI and ML. And so that itself, that difference and adoption create an inconsistency in providing the right information. So it's just important for us to all work together in governance, and we're doing that now. We're working together to kind of move forward on what we need to make changes in order to allow us to share information at the speed of need.
Thank you, Raven. Thank you, Raven. Actually made a lot of great points. I know we had talked about some of that earlier, but it is very important to get policy correct. I think when it's done right, it can leave opportunities and paths toward interoperability and making sure that we're sharing our data and keeping our critical data and operations safe. Done wrong, it looks like a lot of red tape, removes our agility, and can be counterproductive to a lot of our goals. So, like you said, I think we definitely need to make sure that we're kind of keeping an eye on what the risk and the requirements are and what it is that we're actually trying to accomplish. So sometimes I think, it needs to be a little bit more built in during the development stages and making sure that we're being strategic about it and the things that we need to accomplish, and making sure that we reassess it as our technology footprint changes or the operational environment changes. I think at sometimes we outgrow our policy, and sometimes we just need to relook at it and make sure it's still getting after the goals and what it is that we were trying to do in the first place, and making sure that we're not being counterproductive to what we need to do. So with that, Ashimi, what are your thoughts?
Well, I definitely agree with my colleagues because I think when we look at CJADC2, it really demands unwavering security and unprecedented speed. But when we look at policy, as Colonel stated, policy sometimes lacks technology, right? But there are some technology out there that would enable us to implement with secure application development so that we can rapidly deliver capability. So when I say that, I'm really talking about like applying DevSecOps where we can bake in risk management from the acquisition, from the start of the application development. In the past, we talk about baking in security, and now we really have to think about baking in risk management from the beginning and onset of acquisition so that we can continuously develop and integrate, and we can continuously deliver and deploy, because we're in a time where we have to deliver. as soon as we can because the adversary is not waiting for us. And so in order to enable policy-based implementation, we really have to look at capabilities like DevSecOps. We have to look at zero trust such that we can tailor access based on the trust level because we have to be agile. We have to enable any mission partners to be able to coordinate and collaborate with us, share information so that we can make risk-based decision together because we are sharing risk with our allies and partners. And so the criticality of CJADC2 is, again, understanding the risk, understanding that our allies and partners in combined operation have varying degree of IT and cybersecurity maturity. Because today, even within the US, we are looking at zero trust architecture. We're implementing the basics of the zero trust architecture. But our allies and partners are learning about zero trust architecture. And so we have to adopt and adapt to our partners by enabling trust-based security architecture. So at the end, when we talk about balancing speed and security, we must not introduce self-imposed denial of service by implementing very strict and stringent security because it's not going to make operation possible. But on the other hand, we must not be flexible in executing our operation at the expense of security because if we are compromised or exploited, then there is no operation to execute because it will not be effective. So balancing the two is very important. And so achieving CJADC2 requires a paradigm shift where we don't think about is it security or is it speed. We have to have both speed and security to enable effective operation based on the different trust level, based on the varying diversity of our allies and partners' maturity in IT. With that, I will turn it over to Carla.
Thanks, panel. And I'll add a little bit to that discussion as we talk through policy. Policy is only as good as it's being used. So as it relates to our data and how we tag and label it, it's important not to tag and label documents or over-classified documents if we don't have to. The goal is to tag and label the data within the document. So when we are looking and searching and building out some AI ML models, we're able to categorize items or classify items based on the data that's tagged, not the document. So I think while enabling that shared security with also sharing information, we have to have it all baked into our processes so that it makes the policy a bit easier as we build out more capability and working with our partners. So with that, and going into AI ML, it's critical for processing the vast amounts of data generated by CJADC2. How are we leveraging AI ML? And what are the challenges you have in leveraging it in your areas of operation? Drew, could you start off?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking AI ML for quite a bit. You've probably heard it sprinkled throughout several of the panels. I know this morning General Blackwell mentioned a lot of people talk about AI with a little bit of data sprinkled on top of it. So I think she's kind of getting after some of the current challenges that a lot of us have. AI ML is absolutely an enabler for us to be able to move with speed and try to be able to get after our data challenges, absolutely. But it is also not magic, right? We've definitely come a long way as far as trying to be able to utilize it, but we still have a little bit of ways to go. So if I think about the challenges that we currently have utilizing AI and ML, a lot of it is data accessibility. So we have a lot of data chunked into a lot of different environments still, which makes it hard to be able to utilize rapidly or to bring it together to create some of the information that we actually need. Some of the other challenges that we would be having is data standardization and contextualization. So if we're not all on the same data standards, not speaking the same language, then obviously it makes it harder to bring that data together as well. And then contextualization, these models still need to be trained, so you still need a person in the loop. So there still needs to be somebody that can take that data, give it meaning and purpose, and how it can actually answer the questions and make the decisions that our leadership would need to be able to do, and actually train the models to be able to get to that answer. So it is definitely not magic. It definitely requires a lot of work on the back end to be able to train the models. And then lastly, there's a lot of complex requirements and environments, and they are ever changing. So we know that anytime we have any models that we update with AI, they obviously still need to be reprogrammed and continuously updated, which is obviously going to be an additional challenge, and that is going to require that the human kind of remain in the loop, because machines on their own can't contextualize that data well enough to be for the AI to keep up at the speed of need and the changing environments. And I think that's all I have. Me?
Well, I would like to say that whenever I was introduced to AI ML, I thought I was going to be replaced. So thank you, Drew, for telling us that we are not replaceable by AI ML, because we need our human contextualization. Within DISAPAC, we're leveraging AI ML with the defense cyber operations related proof of concept, where we are looking at all the PDF files of the cybersecurity incident reports, using AI ML to scan and read through it, so that when we're asking questions, all the relevant information will be presented to the user. But I really want to focus on some of the ways that INDOPACOM is leveraging AI ML. What I can tell you is that Admiral Paparo loves AI ML, and he believes that everything day-to-day business has to have AI ML background, because we are overwhelmed with data today. To enable the commanders to make effective decisions, he needs that support from AI ML with natural language query, so that he can conduct predictive analysis against all the data that he needs to access. Because as much as we think we're smart, there's no way that we can aggregate, correlate all the information that are out there. So Admiral Paparo, basically, when he was before when he was giving his congressional testimony, he stated that to maintain credible deterrence, he talked about INDOPACOM requiring additional sustained investment in long-range survivable fires, with an emphasis on autonomy and AI-driven systems. But as he is implementing and embracing AI ML, as much as it is an opportunity, there are also a lot of challenges. What I mean by that is AI ML requires a lot of compute resource. And today, all of those compute resources reside in CONUS. Within the INDOPACOM theater, we really have to think about DDoS environment. So how can we implement such a huge compute resources regionally, so that the data that reside locally, where the users are passing the information and need that decision, how can they readily leverage all the data locally and be able to present the information accordingly? So compute resource is a challenge that we have. Another thing that really challenges us is that what we have learned is, excuse me, apparently Admiral Paparo has his preference regarding which model he wants to use. But AI models are not standardized today. Not everyone uses the same algorithm. And therefore, even though we may be training one model, it's not plug and play. When we go to another environment and try to leverage the same information, the results may not be the same. What he wants is a decision quality, results, and output. But how can he have the same consistent information when he goes from one AI model to another? So the AI model consistency is a challenge, because there are so many models out there today. As AI ML has a lot of promises, but there are a lot of challenges that need to be overcome. But we still need to adopt AI ML, because today we have a lot of data that resides within applications that are necessary for the commander to close those kill chains, to achieve that lethality, but also to be agile in terms of how he maneuver the forces, how he allows some of the sustainment resources to be delivered to where it needs to go through different means, even if there are some natural disaster, hurricane weather situations that may be telling him that he needs to change his courses. How can he readily do that? He needs AI/ML to make his decisions. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Raven.
All right, so agree with what both of my colleagues stated. I mean, there was a lot of information there. So I think one of the things that me kind of highlighted, though, is that interoperability capability. So I've talked to a lot of vendors out here that talk about their AI ML solutions and how they're the best. And I agree, they're the best. Are they going to work with everything that we have? That's the question that we have. We need to make sure that whatever's being provided to us is not only interoperable, but also, as she stated as well, sustainable in a DDIL environment. Are we, at the strategic operational edge, going to have the same resources and capabilities to ensure our senior leaders are able to receive all the information to make, informed decisions, especially during crisis or conflict or anything else like that. So these are really important things that we need to ensure the community at large understands where we're trying to go. The other thing, enabling data tagging, enabling filtering and capabilities, analytics. So ultimately, we have an enormous amount of data that needs to go ahead and be processed from all different domains. So it's important for us to understand we need AI/ML in order for CJAT-C2 to become a reality. Additionally, we need to have this now, right? We're in a position that we've talked about CJAT-C2, JAT-C2, JIE for over a decade. And we're at a point where we need to be successful. We need to be successful not because DISA needs it, but because as a combat support agency, our customers need it, our warfighters need it. We need standardized data formats, we need APIs, we need the ability to go ahead and understand what our requirements are from the warfighter themselves. And then finally, Drew kind of mentioned the human in the loop previously, and one of the things that I'll say is that not just any human, we need to have the right people. Academia needs to understand that we need well-trained personnel that live in this environment and have the understanding of where we're going, how to utilize these tools that are coming out right now. In the end, I'll just tell you that we have a very short timeline to try and make this work, and we can't do it without all of you. I apologize. Go ahead.
Thanks, Raven, for that. I'd add a little bit of what we also see as a bit of a challenge is it becomes difficult sometimes to get the commanders or the customers to clearly articulate what it is they need. There's a massive amount of information, so it becomes a challenge, but trying to dig down into understanding what is it that you need and why do you need it so that we can help build out the right requirement for them. So that's another challenge in each theater. They've have different reasons for why they want information. So figuring out how we standardize that to build out a capability that's not only important for the commander, but also resilient if it's needed in other areas, because we don't just fight in our combatant commands, we fight globally. So the information that's being distributed to us also needs to be able to be resilient and visible in other theaters as well. The next question I have is talking about the Common Operating Picture, or COP. COP is vital for decision making. How have you leveraged our hybrid cloud environment to reduce the latency in CJAT-C2? Please touch on how you, if any, have used a combination of leveraging zero trust, hybrid cloud or edge cloud, or multi-domain in our multi-domain contested environment. This time I'll go to Mihi first.
Yeah, so common operational picture is vital for effective decision making in CJAT-C2. within the Indo-PACOM theater, because we're very deal prone because of the geography of our theater, we have implemented a couple ways to reduce latency using cloud. So the first, in order to build a common operating picture, we need to have connectivity, right, to be able to access the information, right? And so the way that we are reducing latency is by building a more resilient DISN transport. And the way that we're doing that is we're leveraging all undersea cable systems available. We're trying to build agnostic transport gateways so that we can leverage even the commercial transport. So we are building out resiliency as we speak so that we have minimum delay and be able to access and be able to connect. And secondly, we have implemented what we call Joint Operational Edge Cloud Node, JO node. And bottom line is, as stated before, we have a lot of cloud capabilities on CONUS, but we need to bring the data closer and to the proximity of the forward deployed units. So what we have done is we have a commercial edge device, commercial cloud edge devices that we have deployed. It is operational in 2 of our data centers today with many applications that are onboarded across the joint services today. But what we're doing is we're enabling compute and storage process within the theater in case we are disconnected from the CONUS region. And thirdly, what we have done is not just enhance our DISN connectivity and bring the data within the theater, we are also optimizing the applications for edge deployment by bringing a lot of the compute resources within the region, right? So that it's not just hosting the application, but we enable compute and process within the theater for that decision superiority. However, in terms of applying zero trust, we really haven't done that other than implementing a security as a service edge device router connecting to the JO node. And what that will do is it will enable some sort of SD-WAN, enabling a lot of agnostic transport, means of transmission to connect. But we haven't really implemented the zero trust principles within our JO architecture. However, besides partnering with DoD-CIO as well as the Air Force MPE office, where we are beginning to spearhead implementation of a classified cloud environment, leveraging zero trust principles to enable different trust level of access. Because as stated, a lot of our allies and partners in the theater have a varying degree of maturity within the cybersecurity. So we're not going to trust one of our partner the same way we may trust Five Eyes as an example. So we have to come up with a different means of enabling that trust-based security architecture so that we can enable our allies to access the data that must have data so that we can make risk-shared decisions together by looking at the same data points and visualizing the same battle space. So that is the way that we are enabling hybrid cloud with a zero trust for the coalition environment today. I'm going to turn it over to Raven, who can talk more from the UCOM perspective.
Yeah. So much like Indo-PACOM, I have to give props to J9 Hack. So JWCC, J9 Hack has been doing these implementations across the world, and most recently they've put in a JO node as well in the European theater, as well as down in the CENTCOM area, AOR. So what this does is it does bring that operational edge capability to the theater, and then more importantly, it kind of extends it out to the tactical edge. So as these warfighters are trying to receive the information, they have a centralized point. They don't have to reach all the way back to CONUS to go and get the same information. So having that common operational picture is vital. And, everybody kind of refers to Blue Force tracking, as was stated before, knowing exactly where we are, where our enemies are, and everything else like that. But it's more in depth, and it has so much more information in there. So ensuring that we strategically leverage our hybrid cloud solution that's being provided will allow our warfighters, our senior leaders, combatant commands to make informed decisions, as I've stated before. But there's a need for speed, especially in those contested environments. And so ensuring that these items are available to us are definitely going to allow us to move forward and ensure that we provide them what they need when they need it. The other thing to kind of consider, though, is that zero trust is our foundation. We need this in order to ensure we can focus on microsegmentation, continuous monitoring capabilities, as well as least privilege access. And we can't do that without applying some type of zero trust architecture within our cloud environments. This will allow us to work with our mission partners, as well as several nations that don't necessarily fall directly into NATO, but ones that we're going to have to work with depending on the crisis or the situation. So ultimately, it's just important for us to understand that there's a lot of information that's going to be needed to provide that appropriate common operational picture that each combatant command has been asking for dozens of years. I mean, everybody keeps asking for it. So I think this is the time for us to go ahead and deliver that. I'll go ahead and stop and pass it over to Drew, who's probably dying to speak.
Actually, you guys have done a great job already talking about a lot of the offerings and services and the continuous modernization that DISA has been working to be able to get after a common operational picture. So actually, there's not really a ton left at this point, other than I think it does allow us to get better data directly from closer to where the data is actually generated. And I think some of these modernized capabilities also give us a better ability to store, aggregate, and transform our data exponentially and at an exponential rate. So that's going to be able to help us deliver on these common operational pictures that, yes, I agree, the field has been asking for a very, very long time. So honestly, I think all these changes to the landscape and the continuous modernization is really where we needed to go, and was really what was stopping progress from being able to deliver these. And then I think the only other thing is working together to start actually, no kidding, creating some of these battle spaces. I think we have some of the technology to do it, and at this point in time, I think we need to just start developing and working together to create some of those common operational pictures that would be, and do some common problem solving, and start picking problems that are expand across all the field commands. I think that's probably a good place to start. We have the ability to see our battle space. How cool is that, right? So I think now we just need to continue to work together to push the boundaries and push our capabilities and see how far we can go. So and then to continue to modernize. But honestly, our technology and our partnerships are going to be what make these what makes this COP successful. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. So I will say, just as a combat support agency, it's really beginning to lean forward in supporting the warfighter directly in every theater, but there's still a lot of room to grow. We still have a lot of work to do in every environment, so we definitely look forward to having our industry partners help us kind of work through solving this problem. And in every theater, we also have unique requirements. So how are we adapting our data sharing solutions to meet these needs? How are we integrating these capabilities across theaters and with our mission partners and allies? What are the trade-offs involved in tailoring solutions to different environments? Raven, can you help us out with that first question?
Yeah. So I think we've kind of talked about what we're doing in each one of our theaters, and I think everybody's got wonderful silos of excellence. The problem is that that's not what we're looking for. We want to be able to go ahead and provide something that's globally accessible, that really is a combined, joint all-domain command and control capability. That's what we're looking for. There's no one-size-fits-all. But as Drew pointed out, she told us there's common problems, there's common items, common things that are needed within each combatant command, within each region. And so that's what we probably need to focus on. We do have unique situations, and we'll say when we develop any type of policy or program, and as we expand it out, we'll say there's going to be somebody that's going to modularize that particular item and say, okay, this is unique to this country, but it still fits into the overall program of sharing information and allowing us to go ahead and move forward. In our case, we have a situation or a problem that we're still trying to solve with NATO's FMN and how we interconnect with NATO and be able to, as we stated before, maybe we utilize micro-segmentation within the cloud environment to allow the right person to have the right data at the right time. Those are the type of things that we need to kind of move forward on and try and develop. So in the end, before I pass it off again, interoperability and federation, these are things that we need now. There's cost and complexity to all of this, but at the same time, if we utilize the new technology, cloud solutions, as well as the AI ML, I think we can achieve our goal before the end of the year.
So yeah, absolutely. Yep, kind of back to the trying to fix common problem spaces. So at the end of the day, we're all here to solve a problem. I do think it's important that we solve some of those problems together for sure before we go off into our stovepipes to fix our specialty requirements. I think we need to do this for a lot of reasons, to be honest with you. But part of that is the trade-offs of us working in our own stovepipes, creating our own thing, is honestly we create multiple answers to the same problem, as an example, right? Yeah. You're using different data and you come at it from a different angle, but if you're not working together to solve the problem, then you have like 5 dashboards with a different answer for each, right? So then what's your source of truth at that point in time? So I think that's definitely part of the problem. Data standards and quality, that problem amplifies when you create something on your own and then try to bring it together later. It might seem like a quick win in the short term, but ends up taking longer to get after those common operational pictures. And then another part is we work similar capabilities, taxing resources, and lost economies of scale. So if we're all trying to solve the same problems in different stovepipes, you could be working and having those same extremely capable SMEs working together to create more, create better, and to do more with the current resources that we have. And then honestly, the common understanding you gain from working together and understanding each other's mission spaces and each other's challenges. I think that also helps when you actually do hit a contested environment and now you're forced to work together, where it's a no-fail. So I think sometimes when we do work together on some of these common problem spaces, it does help us gather an appreciation for each other's challenges. And then at the end of the day, like none of us are in this alone. I know we're all out here to problem solve. So I know a lot of the analytics and things that we are creating for DISA Global, I never just think of us. I always think of the bigger, broader picture and who we're serving and how we can serve them better. And at the end of the day, I think it's something that we definitely need to make sure that we're doing together and finding better ways to get after and solve problems. And then also, I think that also helps break down the complexity. So if you look at this thing as a whole, it is extremely complex. But I think when we start working together and chunking down that problem space into some manageable pieces that we can fix and work on together, I really do think that's where the progress is made, and I think that's where momentum picks up, and we are able to do great things for our customers.
Yep.
Me?
Yeah, Drew, I mean, you've said it really well regarding, common problem, common understanding, sharing resources so that we can make forward progress. CJADC 2 was never meant to be silo for each theater. Combined, joint, all domains. It is meant to be enterprise and it is meant to be global. But because we have not delivered that enterprise solution, each theater is implementing its own flavor of CJADC 2. As an example, within our theater, we have the kill chain joint fires network because it doesn't exist out there. But CENTCOM has their own closing kill fire, kill chain application. Just as Raven mentioned about FMN, because there isn't a zero trust mission partner environment, INDOPACOM developed its own INDOPACOM mission network. So we need to stop developing these siloed application tailored to each theater, because they're only doing it because the enterprise solution does not exist today. And so to what Drew has stated, when we put our heads together, we may take pockets of that uniqueness that are really unique to that theater possibly. But when we start looking at what this uniqueness may be, there really isn't much uniqueness. We talk about DDoS environment, yes, but it's just the vast geography that we have in INDOPACOM, but DDoS environment also exists in UCOM. It exists in CENTCOM. We talk about, data standardization. There's nothing so special about any of the INDOPACOM data. We don't have data standardization, period, whether it's UCOM or INDOPACOM or CENTCOM. So we have common problems. We have allies and partners that vary in their expertise of, cybersecurity and IT maturity, but they're all allies and partners. We have different information agreement. Most of them in our theater is bilat. We don't have multilat. We have Five Eyes, where we have a lot of information that we can share with. So we have different varying partners with a different trust level that we can start testing those today. So I think we have a very motivating time today with a pacing thread who is catching up to our technology and our capability. So I think it forces us to work together, because we have to work together to win today, because our pacing thread is not just in our theater. Our pacing thread exists globally. So we have to take this problem as a global problem and work together to share those common resources that we have.
Thank you for that. And I'll add to the discussion on the importance of building out some standardization. After a while, it becomes a risk decision for a commander, because we can all use the data differently or have access to data in each theater differently, come to an answer, a solution that could be different for each combatant commander, and they make decisions off of data that may or may not be built out correctly or appropriately. So the biggest concern and the biggest thing that we've noticed is, even with cybersecurity standards, with IT standards, with any technical capability or standard, it's always been the industry that's led in building out guidelines and recommendations for the industry professionals to follow. So for us, we will continue to go down this path of, building out capability internal to our theaters, because we're going to try to focus on what areas we can control, but we really need industry to step in with us and help us build out what is the goal with building out what we should look like in standards, so that our guidelines follow what the industry follows, and we all have something to go off of for the overall. Before I ask for questions, I'm going to have our panel take a moment to provide us some closing and final thoughts that they have for this panel. I'll start with you, Drew.
CJADC2 is definitely a step in the right direction. This is something that we have made considerable strides on, and I think we need to keep our foot on the gas, right? I think a lot of people kind of look at it, and there's a lot of complex problems, and that I don't deny. But I do think we definitely now have the technology and the right people in place at the right time. I think we just need to make some big, bold steps forward, start tackling some problems, and start creating some momentum. And I think we could probably solve more problems a little bit quicker than I think a lot of people realize. But I think at some point in time, I think sometimes we wait for things to be perfect, or we wait to have enough of something to think that we can move forward. But I think the time is now. I think we have enough to move forward. And I think, working together with our partnerships, I think we have nowhere to go but up, and I'm really looking forward to the things that we can do with this. If I had one thing to say to industry, I do wish that we had them a little bit more integrated into the teams at times. I think sometimes they want to sell us something as a service or try to do it for us, and I don't think this is a problem. These are problems that you can solve on your own. I really do think it's something where it would be great to have our industries on the team with us. I think that's usually where we make the biggest, boldest moves, is when they're, in the trench, in the dirt with us, feeling the pain with us, and helping us to figure out the no kidding reality and how we move it forward. So, to me, this is a great capability that I think we need to continue to move forward. And that's all I have, Mie.
Yeah, so I think we cannot make CJATC to happen without industry partner. Technology is the basis of how we develop capabilities and deliver to our warfighters. What we need, though, is that we talk about standardization, right? What we need is vendor-agnostic solutions. We need platform-agnostic solutions. We need AI model-agnostic solutions so that we can plug and play. We need AI models that can look at data and understand the data format so that we don't have to go back and try to tag all the data that are out there. These are known problems. We need to make everything agnostic. I never thought I would love the word agnostic, but I do love the word agnostic because that's the era that we live in today. Proprietariness will not work. It is not sustainable. This is an enterprise global problem, so we have to worry about working together, building one solution, but that one solution can be tailored to each uniqueness of each theater, to each uniqueness of our allies and partners. But we need to be agnostic in all means of technology, in all means of data, all means of platform, and all means of models that are out there so that we can achieve lethality together as a one team. Over to you, Raven.
All right, so if you ended up having agnostic on your bingo card, you definitely were able to mark that off. But in the end, one of the things that I would tell you is that we've kind of talked about everything in regards to requiring a robust security environment, but it's still well-balanced, acceptable risk or understanding of risk so we can share information. It's extremely essential to understand what AI and ML provide to CJATC2, enabling it to get the information because it's a lot of information that needs to be combined and provided in order for us to make the right decision. So fostering interoperability, understanding data sharing workflows, ensuring that we, as an agency, continue to work with all of our industry partners to look for the right solution, to provide the customer what they really need, to provide the warfighter what they need, not only now, but in the future. So as the director has already stated, everything is a data consumer or producer. We're at that point. The cyber domain cannot be ignored anymore. And we, DISA, as a combat support agency, understand that what we do, we have a no-fail mission. We have a need to be successful, not for ourselves, but for who we provide solutions for. So it's really important that we at least let everybody here know that we need the defense industry, technical experts to understand where we're going, what we need, and how we expect to get there, all right? We need your help in developing CJATC2 on the global scale so that we can all communicate with each other and that we're not siloed. I would also like to go ahead and finish off with one thing. And if you didn't know, we had a different topic initially. It was kind of strictly focused on Europe. And we made a command decision, and by that I mean not me, that basically ensured that we brought everybody into the picture and understood what people are facing, my colleagues are facing around the world. And we pulled in Drew and me, so we want to go ahead and thank them for being on the panel with us. And we have a DISA Europe morale coin. It's the shape of a pretzel, of course. And it's pretty nice. It's got the German and American flag on it. And then most importantly, in the corner right here, it's actually a beer bottle opener, just in case they need that. All right, so
Take that, just a pat. No, I'm kidding. Absolutely. So, thank you again, panelists, for helping us out here today. As you've heard here, there are many challenges in building a truly integrated CJAT-C2 environment. We need to balance agility and security. We need AI and data processing at the edge to help the mission commander have awareness. We also need to be integrated across the theaters and with our mission partners. So for our academia, commercial, and industry partners, this is a call to action. We need your help. In an increasingly complex world, we need to work together to unlock the full potential of CJAD-C2 in order to keep the warfighter lethal. I want to thank you all for being with us today. What questions do you have for us?
what? I hope you, wait, first, your partner, all right? Just so we know.
Yeah, we're on. Okay. Firstly, thank you very much. That was really insightful, and I appreciated that you showed what I would call quite a bit of leg on your own internal issues with creating partner environments, notwithstanding your own silos. So that was really quite insightful. And Colonel Talicia, I'll let you decide who answers this. How close is DISA to enabling a true data-centric architecture that uses zero trust to enable traditional and non-traditional partners to join a network?
So because I know Raven has insider information on what we're doing in the European theater, I'll let you go first.
So ultimately, if you've talked to Chris Pym, who's a PM specifically for our Zero Trust Architecture product, which is Thunderdome, they're doing an outstanding job. And some of the things that they've been able to go ahead and apply strictly within, of course, our DISA and 14O partners is allowing us to see how we're going to start integrating that with our mission partners, our other allies and nations. And so ensuring that we have that information. So we may be able to provide a zero trust architecture to protect our end, and then we'll share that information, of course, with our partners. But it's important for you to also understand that we need your side, your help in ensuring that you are also applying these same type of policies and procedures on the UK side so that we are all secure from beginning to end. There are a lot of different things that we are working on both in theater and around the world. And I think we're doing a great job. In fact, I'll tell you this, if somebody asks me, it's like, well, how does your zero trust architecture compare to others? Well, I don't know of another. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, there is an effort within DoD-CIO trying to build that zero trust-based cloud environment, data-centric environment. But as I completely agree with Raven, we, DISA and DoD, may be able to implement that, but partners' access into that environment depends on how well your network is postured to be able to share information. In order for us to have high trust, we need to make sure that you have also implemented the zero trust concept. Case in point is we use identity as a major pillar for zero trust. We use multi-factor authentication. Many of our allies do not. They use username and password. So already we have we have now less trust because we don't know how to trust your identity and who you are. So therefore, as stated, we can build that environment to allow non-traditional partners to access information, but it will be limited if you have not implemented that mature cybersecurity postured environment.
You don't want to take this one. So I will add to that. I know within the Europe and PACOM theater, but specifically Europe, the technical capability to build out an environment with the U.S. and a partner is within months. However, there are a few steps and priorities we have to take to ensure that the integration into standardizing what we call policies or what you guys look at as requirements for building out how you trust a person to have access to your network and what we consider to be trust principles, they have to align initially in order for us to share and connect. So I believe that if the question is how quickly can DISA come on board, the answer is within months. The next phase is how quickly can our partners connect us together to ensure that that capability is built out as well. So I think it's a conversation. I believe we're trying to work to build that out in a bilat with the UK, but definitely a few more questions. Definitely not a technical constraint for us, more so a policy and a build out of priority and requirements. So, any other questions? So since we're only 2 minutes out, I'll thank everyone for being here today and appreciate your support. I know it was 1,600 when this panel started, and there's other places you could be. So thank you so much for participating in our panel today.
Sure.
I do have one question.